great alma mater, we promise fealty all days, always. In the things we do, we will show our spirit and be true. Hail carol to you. We praise thee, carol high. May you be always blessed. Your sons and daughters now share your happiness. Voices ringing in a pledge of loyalty to our great alma mater. We promise fealty all days, always. Bearing cross our crown, we will show our love to God above and carol to you.
I am Julie Weitz, Carroll High School graduate from the class of 1994 and Director of Alumni Relations. Welcome to the 8th Distinguished Alumni Hall of Fame induction ceremony. I'm so thankful we are able to be here tonight with these inductees who had to wait an extra year to celebrate. In a few minutes, we'll begin dinner. Maybe you've already begun. But first, join me in thanking Jerry Swisshelm Shane, class of 1965, and Mary Lou Swisshelm Starr, class of 1966, who led us in the alma mater. I also want to thank Matt Sableski, principal of Carroll High School, Pete Williams, director of advancement, Michael Franz, director of communications, and the entire Carroll community for supporting this event. But most of all, I'd like to thank the Alumni Association's Awards Committee for their dedication in making this evening's ceremony perfect. Each and every one of the committee members had a role in this event, and they give of their time again and again, all for the love of Carroll High School. Join me in thanking the selection committee, but please hold your applause until the end. Committee members, please stand as I announce your name. Chairperson Jim Fleischer, class of 1985. Jeannie Hyde McManus, class of 1966. Susie Kuntz Roselius, class of 1966. Patricia Pierre Kretz, class of 1968. Kathy Kuntz Heeb, class of 1970. Dr. Greg Notstein, class of 1971. Kathy Webbin Jackson, class of 1975. Mark Job, class of 1983. Kim Tim, class of 1986. Amy Sableski Whitman, class of 1988. Mark McNulty, class of 1994. Julia Lemaster Bay, class of 1995. Gwen Fox Stump, class of 1999. And Jill Kilby, one of Carroll's dedicated history teachers. Please join me in thanking these devoted Carroll Patriots. At this time, I'd like to introduce Carroll's president of the Alumni Association, Christine Youngerman, class of 1979. Chris has served on the Alumni Association since August of 2007. She endlessly dedicates her time to Carroll High School and can be seen volunteering at Alumni Association events, and Carroll's concession stand, and most of all in the Spirit Shop during the school day or the Spirit Shack at athletic events. Please join me in welcoming Chris Youngerman.
Not my favorite part of this job. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to start off again, but like Julie did, I would like to thank the Distinguished Alumni Association for the wonderful job you guys did yesterday at school and for this event here tonight. I'd also like to thank the administration for everything you guys did at school yesterday. I'd also like to congratulate the distinguished Hall of Famers. I hope you guys enjoyed your time back at school yesterday and enjoyed seeing all the updates that the school has done since your time at school. And I'm also sorry that you had to wait an extra year because of COVID. And I'm not sure if everyone is aware of this, but I'd like to do a little shout out to Sheryl Mchenry. 40 years, WHIO? Yeah, 40 years at WHIO TV. A little bit about the Alumni Association. Our mission is to develop, strengthen, and preserve the past, present, and future relationships of the Carroll High School community. Some of the events that we run are, again, is the Distinguished, and also we also do the Athletic Hall of Fame. We do the Alumni Social, which we held last night. We do Job Shadow Day. We have a golf outing yearly, and we also have the St. Pat's Fest yearly. 5 ways the alumni give back to the school is yearly. We do 5 $1,500 student scholarships. We did the cooling system in the gym. We updated what we knew as the library is now the CLC. And then this last year, in the gym lobby, you noticed the new touchscreen high definition digital wall Hall of Fame kiosk, which is there's a picture in the program, we're very proud of. That's just to name a few. And also since 2019, when Giving Day started, Alumni has given a total of $284,000, which I think is a pretty great amount that Alumni has done so far. Now at this time, I'd like to introduce Sister Mary Alice Stein. She's a sister of charity. She's a former Latin and English teacher at Carroll High School, where she taught for 43 years, from 1967 to 2010. She has a quick sense of humor, endless energy, and always an inspiration to her students. Please join me in welcoming Sister as she leads us in the opening prayer.
In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and the Holy Spirit. O God, our Father, we ask you to bless our 2021 inductees, Tom Hoffler, Ann Logus, Christine Rafalco, Dr. Stephen Blatt, Dr. Elizabeth Skowron, Colonel Urban Gillespie, and Michael Stika. Also bless those who were involved in preparing this ceremony, and also those who prepared our food. Lord God, for our food we thank you. For our joys we praise you. And for our life we glorify you. Amen. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, amen. And thank you for welcoming me.
Welcome, everyone. My name's Jim Fleischer. I'm one of the members of the Distinguished Hall of Fame Committee, which is part of the Carroll High School Alumni Association. I'm privileged to be on that committee. Julie came up earlier, Julie Hemmert-Weitz, and introduced all of the members of that committee, and that was well-deserved. But Julie left one person out, and that was Julie. I want to say something. Every other year, I have the privilege of coming up here and representing the committee and being the face of the committee to the inductees and to their guests. And I know, and I think the other members of the committee know, that Julie's really the leader of this whole thing. And she and the other committee members deserve a large round of applause for all that they do to put this together. So please join me. We also have some special guests this evening, and I think you're all going to know who this person is, but I would ask our former principal and an icon at Carroll High School, principal when I was there in 1985, Mr. Joseph Sens is here tonight, so please give him a round of applause. I would also ask all of the current and former staff and faculty at Carroll High School, the greatest high school in the United States of America, to please stand and be recognized. Thank you. So, this isn't the first time that we've done this rodeo. We've been doing induction since 2008, and we do them on a biannual basis. So there have been other inductees to join, who are going to be joined this evening by our current slate of inductees. I'd like to announce some of the previous award recipients, and if you would, please stand as I call your name, and please hold your applause until I'm finished with the list. Sharon Schneider Becker, class of 1969. You here, Sharon? She's not, oh, right, she's in absentia, right. So, Jim Chervenka, class of 1966. Mike Easterling, class of 1965. Sheryl Mchenry, class of 1974. Joseph Sens, our principal, inducted in 2016. Sister Mary Alice Stein, who you met earlier this evening and who I suspect you already knew, inducted in 2014. Is there anyone else that I've missed? Oh, I'm sorry. How could I forget? Mr. Jim Hemmert. Please give a round of applause to the former inductees. Jack Glazer. I'm sorry, you know what? I think my list is short. Please stand, Jack. Thank you. Jeannie McManus, would you please come up and tell me who I missed? Okay, I think my notes must have been shortened somehow. Hold on. All right, let's move on. We started a little bit late, so I pared down my 53 pages of notes down to 52. So let me begin here. No, let me introduce the person who's really going to lead you through this and who has done this for us for a number of years. She is, in fact, an inductee into the Hall of Fame herself. She was one of the first inductees in the year 2008. She doesn't like the limelight. She doesn't like to be in the spotlight. You may have heard of her, I'm not really sure. But our MC is Cheryl Mchenry from the class of 1974. And in all seriousness, you know, Cheryl Mchenry is one of the faces of the local Dayton community, and she's been that for many, many years. I won't say how many, right, Cheryl? I think maybe it was 40 or so at WHIO. But Cheryl is a really special contributor to our community. She's been doing that for us for years. She brings us the news, good, bad, and ugly. She does it professionally. She does it expertly. She is the best, and I don't think anybody here disagrees with that characterization. Cheryl got her bachelor's in broadcasting from the University of Cincinnati, which is a wonderful school, but they beat Notre Dame today, so I'm not really that keen. She has, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, she has won 9 Emmys, so she's almost in double digits for coverage. The last one, I think, was last year for coverage of the tragic events at the Oregon District situation in 2019. That day, on that tragic day, she was on the air from 4 a.m. until noon. Then she went back on at 6 o'clock and did an hour. And then she came back at 11 o'clock. So, just an unbelievable dedication to her craft. And in 2020, Cheryl was awarded for the second time in her career the Best Anchor Award from the Society of Professional Journalists. She is in the Radio TV Broadcasters Hall of Fame, which takes second place only to the Carroll High School Distinguished Alumni Hall of Fame. But please, without any more delay, please join me in welcoming Carroll's very own Cheryl Mchenry.
fun. Well, good evening. Thank you, Jim, for that wonderful introduction. Yes, 40 years now at WHIO TV. I know I'd never have lasted 40 years in TV news if it weren't for my Carroll education. Academics, ethics, character building, persistence, all kinds of values that I learned at Carroll. So I'm a big fan of Carroll High School, have been and always will be. Carroll High School sent me some very nice flowers for the occasion. So thank you, Matt and Mindy and everybody who was responsible. And I also got some very nice congratulatory remarks from viewers. One of my favorites said, "Dear Cheryl, I have been watching you for many years. I cannot believe you have been on TV for 40 years. You don't look that old." You see, being an aging woman in television is very humbling. But I would like to welcome all of you to this wonderful event in which we get to celebrate not just our honorees, but Carroll High School, which was such an important part of our lives. Had it not been for COVID, this event would have been held a year ago. And I know of at least one inductee who isn't here tonight because of COVID, and an important family member of another inductee is missing tonight who would have been here if this event had been held last year. The virus has certainly affected all of us in different ways, and even though it's still with us, I know that we're all very happy to be able to celebrate together tonight. We're honoring 7 inductees tonight. Could all of our inductees please raise your hands? Welcome to you. Yes, how about a round of applause? Raise your hand if you're a family member or relative of one of the honorees. Welcome to you. Raise your hand if you're a friend of an honoree. Welcome to you. And raise your hand if you just came for the food. Honey, put your hand down. I told you, what did I tell you about that? By the way, the food was delicious, so we would like to thank those who prepared it and served it. Thank you very much. You know, this really is a very special night. Carroll High School has produced so many solid citizens who are doing important work in their professions and their communities, and as well as being good and loving members of their families and living their faith by example. It's an honor for me just to be among you and to hear of your accomplishments. A solid Carroll citizen who I'm going to introduce now, and I'll tell you about him. You know, when I was a senior at Carroll, we got this new teacher, Mr. Sableski. I had him for mass media class my last semester of high school. Wonderful man, great human being, might have had a little influence on what I chose to do for a career, but so did Sister Mary Alice, who I had for journalism. Where are you, sister? Yes, I see you over there. Enjoy that dessert. Okay, well, Mr. Sableski's wife, Patty, taught at Immaculate Conception, and their son, Matt, class of 91, is now the Mr. Sableski at Carroll. Matt just marked his 10th anniversary as principal. He is the 6th principal in the 60-year history of Carroll High School. He's continued keeping it one of the best, well, the best high school in the country, according to Jim Fleischer, and I agree wholeheartedly, with strong academics and a top-notch faculty. And he came to his leadership in 2011 with a vision, realizing the school needs to stay competitive in order to survive and thrive. At that time, Julie Hemmert Weitz wrote this about this new principal's vision. He'll be looking carefully at Carroll's facilities, Catholic identity, marketing and communications, tuition assistance endowment, technology in the classroom, partnerships with universities, maintaining enrollment, and going green. So if you've paid a visit to the Carroll campus recently, you have seen Matt's vision become reality in most of these areas, and he's not done yet. He still brings the same energy and enthusiasm to the job that he did that very first day he set foot in the principal's office. So at this time, I'd like to introduce Mr. Sableski 2.0. Ladies and gentlemen, Matt Sableski.
You did take my notes one time. I had to wing it, and no one wants me winging it. Well, thank you for that wonderful introduction. Thank you all for being here on this extraordinary night. Every day is a great day to be a Patriot. Everybody knows I say that often. Tonight is an exceptional day to be a Patriot because we're here to honor some really amazing people. An entrepreneur, a financier, an infectious disease doctor, You haven't had much to do, have you, Dr. Platt? No. A psychologist, an air and space scientist who is a soldier, an ambassador for the arts, and a simple Catholic school teacher whose impact on thousands of young people, myself included, cannot be overstated. So this is a really extraordinary group. I'm so excited. Unfortunately, I have to tell you, I will not be able to stay for the entire evening because in addition to this event, we have homecoming going on, and so the children must be monitored. So I'll have to leave at some point to take care of them. 3 of my own children are actually going to homecoming tonight, so I was homecoming dad earlier today. I was getting a tie for my son who informed me at about 4 o'clock, hey, I need a maroon tie. Okay, I have no maroon ties of my own, so off we went. And while we were going, I said, hey, Patrick, make sure you take care of things tonight, be a gentleman, etc. I said, and when you take your date home, make sure you walk her to the door. He looked at me and goes, that's kind of excessive, don't you think? So much for chivalry, I guess. I don't know. Times have changed. Before I continue, I want to just give just a couple of recognitions. First of all, everybody gives Sheryl Mchenry a ton of praise, which is extraordinarily well-deserved. But, the man behind the woman is Bob Shabali, who is pretty awesome. He comes to all these events that she has to do, and everybody thinks, oh, that's Mr. Sheryl Mchenry. No way, man. This guy is awesome. He's a police officer. Thank you for your service and really an extraordinary career that you've had. So thank you for joining us at all these functions, Bob. We really appreciate it. Jim mentioned Julie Weitz. I can't even begin to tell you the extraordinary work she does. I make her absolutely crazy. I do. I drive her crazy on a daily basis, but she keeps coming back for more, and she keeps doing a great job and works with this group of people. So thank you, Julie, for all of your extraordinary work. I want to give a special bit of praise to someone in the audience who's a bit unique, and that's Greg Mueller over there. Greg is a Carroll graduate, but he is currently the principal at Chaminade Julienne. And although you will be a traitor for life, I have a ton of respect for you, Greg, and you're doing a great job, as all Carroll Patriots do. And Greg's had an extraordinarily tough couple of weeks. You may have heard, but CJ lost 2 faculty members in 2 weeks, both under really tough circumstances, and he's had to shoulder a lot of the burden. So I don't know what you're going through exactly, but I know how tough it is, and you get a well-deserved applause tonight. Could you make your football team just a little less good? Whew. Give us a couple years. So I do want to thank all these individuals for being part of the Carroll family, especially for your contributions that you make to your communities, the nation, and our world. Our goal at Carroll is to educate students to discover the person God intends them to be and to go out in the world to do more and be more. These 7 individuals we're honoring tonight embody that ideal, and I'm proud to honor each of you. I don't want to take a lot of time, but I did want to spend a moment. Julie gave me strict instructions to talk about Carroll today, so I'm going to do that. I did want to spend a moment talking about our alma mater. I'm happy to say that life is good at Carroll High School. We're fulfilling our mission each and every day. We boast the highest enrollment of any Catholic school in Dayton. Our students consistently earn national merit and other honors in academics and athletics and service. Last year alone, our seniors earned $17 million in merit-based scholarships. Yeah. While accumulating over 18,000 hours of community service, which is not required. And our science department has earned the prestigious Shaw Award, which is basically the state championship of science, so go us. I'm not sure you are aware of this. Well, you all are. Dr. Platt, there's a pandemic going on, right? You've heard about it. We're in the middle of this pandemic, and schools across the country have been shut down for long periods of time. We will likely be seeing the effects of the learning that has been lost for many, many years to come. However, I am proud to say that Carroll hardly missed a beat. In March of 2020, the extraordinary teachers that we have at Carroll found a way, literally in a matter of 4 days, to instruct the students virtually, and were able to take care of our students' academic, emotional, and social needs during an incredibly difficult time. Last year, and now again into this year, these same teachers are reinventing their craft. They're finding ways to stay in school and keep on learning despite the challenges of COVID. Many of our outstanding faculty are here tonight. I'd be very happy if you'd join me in applause for all of them. You know, I could spend hours talking about all the ways in which our students make us proud each and every day. But I want to talk for a moment just about our mission and our culture. St. Augustine has been quoted as saying, to live a faithful life, one must keep adding, keep walking, keep advancing. You could say this about any type of success or progress. Our students are evolving at Carroll High School. We're blessed with great kids from great families and incredibly diverse backgrounds. This is what makes us rich. It makes us deep and passionate and hopeful. But if I'm going to be really honest, sometimes it makes us tired, it makes us sad, and maybe not as hopeful as we want to be. Consider this. 1 in 2 children in Montgomery County live in poverty or financial stress. 1 in 3 children start kindergarten on track. Only 1 in 3. And less than half of all students in Montgomery County are proficient in 8th grade math. That's sobering. Being somewhat suburban and Catholic, we avoid some of these realities. But half of our students, over half of our students now, live in Dayton, and many come from very difficult situations at home. However, all of our families, whether they are living in poverty or they live in million-dollar homes, come to us for help and for hope. And it's our mission to give them all that we have. So we keep at the forefront of our mission 3 things. Provide a strong moral foundation for our kids so that they go out and serve the world and be disciples of Christ. We ensure that our kids are prepared academically to be successful in college, and we're doing that. And we must help our kids make good decisions, support their mental health, and keep them away from the dangers of drugs and alcohol that are so prevalent in our society today. And we're doing that. Finally, the amazing work done by our faculty and staff each day is done on a campus that is rapidly improving. We are in the midst of a capital campaign, and it has yielded 4 new science labs, an expanded chapel, air conditioning, for those of you who know how hot it used to get, new windows, and a beautiful new stadium. We still have much to do, but our progress has been extraordinary. Many of you here have contributed to this campaign, and I say thank you. Many of you have not been asked yet, and I say, I'm coming. We need everyone's help to ensure that the mission of our dear alma mater is fulfilled each and every day and will continue for generations of patriots to come. The stakes are high, but we are up for the challenge. Every day we keep adding, we keep walking, we keep advancing, and as a result, our students are better off because they were here, and our graduates and parents can be proud of the school that we call home. We're patriots, after all, and today is a great day to be a patriot. Thank you all very much.
Thank you. All right, well, tonight's inductees make up the 8th class chosen for the Distinguished Alumni Hall of Fame. So by the end of this evening, there will be 60 people in the HOF. So let's get on with it, shall we? You know, there are some people that you cannot imagine having done anything else in their career because they seem so perfectly suited for what they do. That can probably be said for all of tonight's inductees. It can certainly be said for the man chosen to be an honorary patriot. Tom Hoffler taught at Carroll for 36 years, a variety of subjects from anthropology and psychology to U.S. history, global studies, politics and government, and current events. On the latter, former student Mark Cannon recalls Mr. Hoffler teeing up a current event topic and urging us to comment pro or con, emphasizing we do it respectfully. If someone got too fiery with their opinion, he would grimace and sigh and bellow, "Hey, be nice, be nice." Sounds like E.T., be good. Student Kim Tim says he was most people's favorite teacher, even though he'd drop a book on her desk loudly to get her attention when she was turned around talking to the person behind her. And yet another student, Bob Burke, admits he was not a standout student, but he was working part-time at Kohler Catering, and Carol was having a canned goods competition among homerooms. Well, because of his job, Bob was able to bring a large amount of canned goods and cardboard boxes for the cause. When Mr. Hoffler saw Bob bringing in the goods, he said, "Look at that, Bob Burke. You, sir, are the winner of the Most Valuable Homeroom Award." To this day, when he sees Mr. Hoffler, he still introduces himself, "Bob Burke, class of '81, Mr. Hoffler Most Valuable Homeroom Award." Mr. Hoffler seemed to like noise. He'd knock on his desk to make a point. He'd open the window, in the winter no less. He'd invite the squirrels in. He said cold air stimulates the brain. I could find no record of any of the rodents actually ever taking you up on the offer. He loved shows like The Office, Good Taste, and Seinfeld, the latter a show about nothing. But he was and is a man of substance who loves history, loves teaching, and loves his students, really cares about them, and they feel it. He used to say his plan was to leave like Seinfeld's George Costanza, just one day say, "I'm out," and leave. Maybe take his jacket with him, nothing else. Even though he retired from full-time teaching in 2015, he remains a huge supporter of all things Patriot. What an honor it is to present to you, ladies and gentlemen, this book-throwing, desk-knocking, window-opening, brain-stimulating, squirrel-inviting, always entertaining, history-loving teacher, Tom Hoffler, for induction as a most deserving honorary Patriot in the Carroll High School Hall of Fame, Tom Hoffler.
Very good. Thank you very much. It was interesting, some of the things you said. The most interesting to me is I taught 40 years, never one day in an air-conditioned room. I would go down to the office and ask the secretaries, because my room was right close to the office, "Would you like to trade for a period? You can have my class. I'll stay down here." I want to thank the Hall of Fame committee for their hard work in this recognition. I am deeply humbled and honored. I'm in front of you today next to a group of Carroll alumni that have made a significant impact on the earth. I have many fond memories coming back to this wonderful school where I spent 36 years. It was always a very joyful place. I know this recognition is in large part due to the good people I was around every day, and there's a lot of them in here today. At Carroll, all the administrators were great. The faculty was particularly exceptional. The staff was top-notch, and the student body was full of so many different kinds of kids. It made teaching them challenging, satisfying, and joyful. On Parent-Teacher Day, I always enjoyed talking to parents. As time went on, I would have more and more second-generation people sending their children to Carroll. That was always a memorable time. I attended St. Albert the Great School. I was the third son of 4 boys of Frank and Kathleen Hoffler. I was born in 1946 on Christmas Day. Anybody else born on Christmas? There are 364 other days to be born, but I was chosen to enter the world on a day when peace and joy throughout the land. And I know my parents were proud of this. My parents were the first good people sent to me to lead my way. Something new at Carroll since I retired is the house system. One house is charity, and I wanted this to be my house, and it was. And I want to honor the nuns that taught me in grade school. They were tough. They were excellent teachers, the Sisters of Charity. And I got to recognize 2 people that were part of this yesterday. They were part of the Charity House, Austin Rodriguez and Pamela Olivas. My first teaching job was at St. Rita Grade School. I taught 7th and 8th grade social studies, English, and physical education. It's very enjoyable. I like the kids, the teachers, the whole operation of the school. When I was hired by Father Robert Obermeyer in the summer of '77 for a teaching position at Carroll High School, a grade school and high school classmate of mine, Stu Gardner, I don't know if anybody in here remembers Stu Gardner. Yes, you don't want to remember too much about Stu, though. He was a high school classmate of mine who was at Carroll High School, and he was a teacher, and he had an opportunity to teach in Germany. Well, as the story goes, it was Stu's job to find his replacement. And my best friend, Roger Forthover, also taught at Carroll. It seemed perfect. This is when I became a Patriot. It was also the start of the rest of my teaching career. This became a strong continuation of being around good people. I started teaching social studies at Carroll in '77 and stayed for 36 years. I encountered over 400 different administrators, faculty, and staff. I taught over 10,000 students in my career. I'll say this, most of the kids I taught were pretty good kids. Carroll didn't have too many bums, but there was a few. And when I was teaching, I had the honor of teaching over 25 current administrators, faculty, and staff, including Matt, God bless him. There are a lot of people who come in the building every day and do very impressive things with their teaching skills for students. Their job is to prepare students for the world. That's a pretty awesome task when you think about it. I am grateful for my parents who are in heaven enjoying this. My wife of 43 years, and she's sitting over here, 48 years, 43. I do have an appointment to see the eye doctor about these glasses. Kay is a loving, caring, wonderful wife, mother, grandmother, primary teacher, and author. She's been a tremendous support to me. And I have 3 terrific children and their spouses and 7 grandchildren. They're kind of over here and over here. My son, Tim, and his wife, raise your hands, guys. And their children and my grandchildren, Anna and Josh Hoffler. Good deal. My daughter, Jill, and her husband, Eric, they're over here. And their children and my grandchildren, Ray and Brandon Bramini. Yeah, they got their hands up. Good. My daughter, Jenny, and her husband, Mike, and their children and my grandchildren. We got Mike and Jenny over there. And then we got Macy, Mikey, and Julia. Julia, yeah. I'm accepting this recognition. Did we get it out? I'm accepting this recognition for the teachers I have had the extreme pleasure to be in their company at St. Rita Grade School, and especially for the teachers past and present at Carroll High School. Lastly, I must share this with you. I left Carroll for a couple years. The plan was to move to Florida. The plan fell through. I found a job as a salesman. It was not my dream job. I didn't know what to do. I was frustrated. One day coming home from work, I prayed to God. I stopped at the light on Wilmington and Patterson. You may know where that is. In my mind, I was taking a bold step. I asked God to help. What should I do? Show me a sign, show me something. Then I saw Joe Sens, the principal at Carroll High School at that time, in his car heading for home. But he was really leading me home. I knew at that moment what to do. Thank God I had the courage to ask for help. God's always ready to give our deepest desires. I want to thank you people from the bottom of my heart.
Well, each of us thinks our class was special. Yeah, people came before us, people came after us, but we were special. I think it would be tough to argue that the class of 1965 really was special. Now you know where they are. They were Carol's first graduating class. They likely grew up thinking they'd go to some other high school, but then this brand new high school opened up on Linden Avenue, and lo and behold, somebody had to be first, and that was the class of 65. There you have them. Class of 65 member Katie Klain says, "Our teachers told us you are the future, and we believed it." She says, "We had so many teachers that pushed us to think critically." Her classmate and dear friend, Amy Mankey, took those lessons to heart and became a teacher herself. Not just an art teacher in Dayton Catholic schools, but a teacher in every way. Says Katie, "Amy is the kind of person who makes you want to be better." She engaged with her community. She and her husband were founding members of Progressive Dayton View because they cared about where they lived and they cared about their neighbors. After teaching, Amy became an entrepreneur. She went into business, helping place people in jobs, then establishing with Katie Logis Klain Consulting, which developed diversity and inclusion initiatives for a wide range of companies, plus the Department of Defense, as well as volunteer organizations. Diversity and inclusion is Amy's passion. Says her good friend, "Amy makes people think without making them feel less than." She enjoys partnering with others and is a generous partner in sharing information as well as the spotlight. And now at a point in life when many people are retired, Amy is still relevant, currently working on a program with the Cincinnati Hospital. She and Katie are among a group of 16 women who were all in the Mount Notre Dame convent together, who still get together regularly for game night, not just to play games, but to connect with each other. Says Katie, "Amy is relationship-oriented. She really has a sense of understanding people and accepting people, and really treats people as equals." Their teachers told them, "You are the future." Amy Mankey Logis certainly embraced that belief, paving a path that made her community and the people around her better for it. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you for induction to the Carroll High School Distinguished Alumni Hall of Fame from the class of 65, the very first, Amy Mankey Logis.
Thank you, Hall of Fame Committee, Julie, Matt, and everyone that worked tirelessly to make this weekend so successful. I'm thankful for this honor and the opportunity to share it with all these other awesome graduates that are here tonight. Many people have lifted me over the years so that I can stand here. I'm grateful for the caring educators imparting their instructional excellence and Christian values. That's the Carroll High School mission statement. The faculty of Carroll in 1961 were the creme de la creme of 6 different orders. There was a lot of competition among those 6 orders, and they were all young, vibrant, and really caring women and men. These phenomenal teachers gave us the opportunity to ask the bigger questions. They taught me to think beyond my little piece of the world. I'm thankful for Father Reese, our first principal, who once told me, and if you knew who Father Reese was, you know what I'm talking about when I say this, in his Father Reese voice, "Miss Minky, you can do anything you put your mind to, and you could do it faster if you could just keep your mouth shut." For some reason, I only remembered the first part of that. I'm grateful for being a teenager during the 60s. We were exuberant when the first Catholic president was elected. We cried in the hallways when he was assassinated. We were ordinary teens going to sock hops one weekend and watching in horror to see dogs and hoses focused on young people in the South the next. And as young girls, for the first time, we started to think that we could be just a little bit better and achieve a little bit more than our mothers and our grandmothers. We began to believe in the power to create whatever we thought was possible. Wall Street bankers, psychologists, doctors, educators, journalists, alumni relations professionals, military officers, Lutheran ministers, immigration specialists, entrepreneurs, and business partners. Thank you, Katie. The girls I met at Carroll and the women they became were and are important in my life because we all learned to say yes. We began to change, and we began to change the world, and that one word, yes, has helped me stay the course. I am thankful for the Sisters of Notre Dame de Namur, with whom I lived and who I still call family. I thank my father for his undeniable work ethic. I certainly picked up on it, as did my siblings. I successfully started 5 different businesses over my life. I learned so much from him. I thank my mother because she was my first diversity champion. She was raised at St. Joseph's Orphanage here in Dayton, and everyone there was family. I don't know if any of you remember the St. Joseph picnics. Okay, I thought I had like 40 cousins. Because it was uncle this and cousin that, and none of them were related by blood, but they were part of my mother's family. We lived in a predominantly black neighborhood on the west side off of West 3rd Street from the time I was born to the time I was 6. We only moved because there were no Catholic schools on the west side off of 3rd Street, and my grandmother had told my dad that if I didn't go to Catholic school, he was going to hell. You know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about. She introduced me, my mother introduced me to my first drag queen, who was a client of hers. She was a seamstress in Dayton, in Belmont, and she did their costumes and went to Vegas with a couple of them. She taught us that family is bigger than blood. Finally, I thank my husband of 51 years, yeah, that's a long time, and my kids. And would my 2 kids please stand up? I want to recognize my 2 daughters, Sharon and Sharon. My grandkids, stand up. And my great-grandkids, who are too little to be here, and they would be rolling in the aisle anyway. Tom has always been open to my liberalism, and I'm laughing because some days he's not so open to my liberalism. But it is a good night, and I'm trying to be nice. And my worldview about justice. He saw that I had a great need for a family, and it wasn't going to happen biologically. He also saw that there was a need for family, by love or by blood. I cannot think of anyone else that was signed up for such an adventure except him. My grands and great-grands keep me firmly planted in the world as it is now. As they get older, my family has seen me leave on Sundays and come back on Fridays. I took them with me all over the United States, Europe, and Asia. They all grew up knowing how important my work of inclusion and equity is to me. They support me. They make it possible for me to continue to do the work that I love, and I am so grateful. I thank you for this honor.
You know, one of the most interesting things about our next inductee is that she made her mark at Carroll even though she spent less than 2 years there. Christine Rafalco started at Carroll after the school year had begun her junior year. Counting kindergarten, it was her 10th school. Her dad, Major General Edmund Rafalco, was base commander at Wright Pat, by the way. and welcome President Nixon to dedicate the Air Force Museum in 1971. But I digress. We're talking about Christine. In an article Julie Hemmert-Weitz wrote about her, Christine said that although she was new to the school, she was warmly received by her class of 72 classmates. And at graduation, she was chosen as Patriot of the Year, a recognition she cherishes above almost any other later in life. And let me tell you, she's had a slew of them. She spent her career in the banking and financial services industry, expanding into commercial lending and real estate finance for commercial properties, and then going to work in wealth management for the Bank of New York. She's received awards for her leadership, teamwork, flexibility, and professionalism. And even though she played a significant role in financing skyline-defining office buildings in several major U.S. cities, she's never confined herself to any pseudo-ivory tower. Quite the contrary. Christine has lent her time and expertise to philanthropic work in healthcare, specifically with children who have heart-related problems, and the arts, helping them generate audiences and fundraising and helping them thrive. Yes, Christine Rafalco has made her mark in her profession, in her community, and at Carroll High School, which she continues to support nearly 50 years after she left. Let's add one more award to her collection, and one we know she will cherish just as much as she does that long ago Patriot of the Year award. Ladies and gentlemen, I present for induction to the Carroll High School Distinguished Alumni Hall of Fame from the class of 72, Christine Rafalco.
Thank you, Cheryl. That's a very nice introduction. Thank you, Matt, Sableski, Julie, and so many of you who made this evening possible. Jim, thank you for organizing everything here, even if you're the face of the operation. But Chris Youngerman, I appreciate all you're doing and for helping me select the perfect t-shirt yesterday at the Spirit Shop. But to Julie Weitz and to Pete Williams, thank you so much for making us so welcome and taking care of every little detail, especially the transportation issues that we faced unexpectedly. So to the selection committee, I couldn't be more humbled and delighted at the same time. I'm just thrilled to receive this award. Those of you who supported this activity and made it a memorable weekend, you have my continuing thanks. I've always been very proud to be a Carroll graduate, and particularly to be honored as the Patriot of the Year, which Cheryl pointed out. What she doesn't know is that tonight I'm wearing the watch that they gave me as that award, and when I first had it, I wore it absolutely all the time. But being 50 years old, it's a wind-up watch. So now I only wear it, for occasions. Then I can wind it up and just have it for that evening. But to be here again this weekend was a great experience. We spent the morning with students, received a tour of the school to see it up close, both the new, polished up image and maybe some original areas. We enjoyed the company of a student ambassador, in my case, Jacob Burdick from Mercy House. And for those of you Notre Dame affiliates, he's very interested in that as a school, so you might be hearing from him. But he also escorted us to the football game. No victory last night. But our touchdown at the end bodes well for future, so we, want to give them every opportunity. But all this is to say that it was not only wonderful to be here, but it's wonderful to see that our school visit and tour that I can share with you. That while much has changed, the core values, principles, goals of the education at Carroll High have not changed. They're continuing forward under the strong stewardship of Matt Sableski and all his staff and faculty. This school is a place that launched all of us on the road to success with all the tools that we needed. It was that way when I was a student, and it's still that way today. And we can all be very proud of that legacy, the continuity, and a promising future. My mother, who is here with me tonight, and I both were delighted to be able to go to the football game last night, but we both observed, and with great pleasure, that the confidence in the students, they seemed very self-assured, inquisitive, prepared, and the families that are all out there together for an evening for the fun of and the football, it was just very nice to see. So I greatly appreciate this opportunity to reflect on the experience at Carroll these 50 years after graduation. And it was very much an honor to be Patriot of the Year. But to be here now, honored as a distinguished alumni, especially among such an awesome class, as it were, is really very special. It is humbling. After a lifetime of pursuing all sorts of interests, when I reflect on how it was all possible. And it boils down to positive attitude, critical thinking, faith, and confidence to explore the unknown, to try new things, and to persevere to see it through. And so much of that was built and reinforced here at Carroll High. The foundations are rooted in the strong education, good vocabulary, critical thinking, and faith. And my hope for Carroll Patriots is the same quality education, the same wonderful experience, programs, and learning environment that will all continue. That graduates carry away lifelong memories like all of us have. And we've been so fortunate and blessed in the strong stewardship, the faculty, and the administration. Several years ago, my first high school, Cheryl mentioned that I'd been to 3 high schools, but my first high school, St. Vincent's Academy, also a very beloved institution in its community, abruptly closed. It had been an integral part of the community for about 120 years, with generations of families having attended. It was unthinkable that this might ever happen to Carroll, that it closed. It makes me appreciate Carroll all the more and continue to applaud and support its programs and its approach to education. Carroll is enjoying its 60th year, and it's up to us to ensure it continues. It's with my deepest appreciation and heartfelt thanks that I accept this honor as a member of the Distinguished Alumni Hall of Fame, and I thank you all who made it possible.
Well, I'm not even sure how our next inductee has time to be here tonight. As infectious diseases medical director and the service chief for medical specialties for Tri-Health in Cincinnati, you can bet he's on the front line of this ongoing pandemic. But Dr. Stephen Blatt has been fighting infectious diseases his entire career. Early on, he did groundbreaking HIV/AIDS research with the National Institutes of Health. Thanks in part to his work, drugs were able to be developed that changed HIV from what was once a death sentence, remember those days, to a manageable chronic illness. Nowadays, he's fully involved with the difficult task of navigating through COVID-19. He sees patients who have the virus, works to find the best treatment for them, all while trying to prevent healthcare workers from contracting this virus and its variants. Dr. Blatt credits Carroll High School with teaching him how to look at a problem, analyze it, and come up with a rational approach to deal with it. He gives particular credit to Joe Sens and his chemistry class, and I can tell you Stephen Blatt is not the only doctor Carroll High School has turned out who's heaped praise on Mr. Sens for forming the foundation of their careers. I remember when you got honorary Patriot and all the people who came back for your induction, Mr. I still have to call you Mr. I'm sorry. You'll always be Mr. to me. Stephen has also carried forth Carroll's lesson of service, volunteering with the Cambonia Missionaries to help start the nonprofit Hope for Kobingo to provide education, healthcare, and economic development to this village in Uganda. The missionaries are known as the Cambonia Missionaries of the Sacred Heart. They're an international Catholic organization dedicated to ministering to the world's poorest and most abandoned people, often working in unstable political climates in the midst of extreme poverty. Dr. Stephen Blatt may not be a member of the religious order. His heart lives here in Ohio, but it is also 7,600 miles away, making a difference in the lives of the people of Kubinga, Uganda. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Stephen Blatt, class of '77, for induction to the Carroll High School Distinguished Alumni Hall of Fame.
Well, thank you very much, Cheryl. That was a really wonderful introduction. So I'd like to thank the Carroll High School staff and faculty and the nominating committee for this amazing honor. To be recognized among this incredible group of people is humbling and really unexpected. I'd particularly like to thank my family, who has always supported me in my professional life and allowed me to follow my passion as my career. Thanks to my brother Sean, who's with me here today, who also has been inducted into the Carroll High School Hall of Fame for athleticism as a swimmer. And I'd also like to thank my best friend and partner, Molly Adams, who has allowed me to follow my dreams and shares her life with me every day. Also, thanks to Casey and Todd Grice, who are with us tonight, who have shared their lives with me and taught me to love again, as well as introducing me to their two beautiful children. And also thanks to Patrick and Joy Adams, who supported me in many ways. As I told the students at the assembly yesterday, when I was sitting in class 45 years ago today, there was no internet and no cell phones. We listened to music on vinyl records or 8-track tapes. The disease known as AIDS was unknown to the world. Gerald Ford was the president following the resignation of Richard Nixon, and the swine flu vaccine was just being rolled out in order to stave off an impending perceived flu pandemic. Who would have imagined all the changes that have occurred in the last 50 years? How does one prepare for such rapid and unpredictable changes in the world? Well, as Louis Pasteur, the father of modern microbiology, said, chance favors the prepared mind, and Carroll High School allowed me to prepare my mind for the coming unpredictable world. The education provided to me by Carroll put me on a path to be able to help patients when the AIDS epidemic hit. My Carroll education is still providing me the tools needed to respond to the COVID-19 pandemic, which certainly no one could have foreseen. Students who are blessed with a Carroll education are prepared to meet any challenges and are ready to not only survive but thrive in the completely unpredictable future. Time moves fast, and it seems like just yesterday that I was here at Carroll, sitting in chemistry class being taught by Mr. Sens. His quiet demeanor and confidence in our abilities served me well when I was sweating it out as a chemistry major at Notre Dame. I distinctly remember several chemistry tests when I would need to call on Mr. Sens' sage advice to think through a problem and not panic. Thanks, Mr. Sens. It has been great to have you as a guardian angel. I'd also like to thank Sister Mary Alice, who got me through the ACT and SAT with her word clues class, as well as her English classes and Mr. Hemmert's English classes, which allowed me to communicate with ease, which is a critical skill that I learned at Carroll. Sister Mary Alice also taught us never to give up and keep plugging away, which served me well throughout my career. Thanks, Sister Mary Alice and Mr. Hemmert. All of the faculty and staff at Carroll were instrumental in providing me with the background that I needed to be able to provide service to the world, and I cannot thank them enough. Although they are not here today, I would really like to thank my parents for providing me with this fantastic education, which has really been the key to meeting the challenges in this ever-changing world. I'd also like to thank my friends in Uganda who have kept me grounded in what's really important in life. The world is really a small place, and we're all connected. As this COVID-19 pandemic has demonstrated, we cannot isolate ourselves from the world. We need to care for those everywhere, and especially now, the world needs the leadership of the U.S. in order to provide vaccines so that we can rid the world of this pandemic. In Uganda, where I've had the privilege to provide medical care with our partners there, Only about 3% of the population has had access to COVID vaccines so far. This pandemic is exacting a terrible toll on the developing world, and we cannot ignore that or it will come back to bite us. It really is true that in this pandemic, no one is safe until everyone is safe. We've got to protect the entire world. In closing, I'd like to say thank you again to the faculty and staff at Carroll High School for providing me with this fantastic education and for carrying on the spirit and traditions of Carroll High School. All the graduates of Carroll carry the message of service to the world, and the world knows Carroll by the works of her graduates. Thank you.
Congratulations, Stephen, and thank you for what you're doing. We all appreciate you, let me tell you. Just a solid kid, hard worker, very successful. This is how Tom Hoffler remembers our next inductee. Elizabeth Scowron, class of '84, Betsy to her classmates. Betsy was a student in Mr. Hoffler's psychology class. He's either too humble or too honest to say whether Betsy's career choice was influenced by his teaching. He remembers she was a swimmer, probably a few years after you, Sean. One of those disciplined athletes who gets up at some ungodly hour to swim hundreds of laps, and even in the cold of winter. And he says, Mr. Hoffler says he probably didn't give her enough attention because she was one of those students that just did what she was supposed to and did it well. Well, Betsy went on to study psychology at The Ohio State University, later got her PhD in counseling psychology and her postdoctoral fellowship in clinical child psychology. She is now a professor in the psychology department at the University of Oregon, where she directs the Family Biobehavioral Lab in the Center for Translational Neuroscience. Dr. Scowron studies the effects of adverse childhood experiences on the development of emotion regulation and self-control in children to support family preservation. These ACEs, as they're called, include things like experiencing violence, abuse, or neglect, witnessing violence in the home or the community, substance use or mental health problems, or an unstable home for any of a variety of reasons. These adverse experiences in childhood are linked to chronic health problems, mental illness, and substance misuse in adulthood. We all know there are many people in our country and in the world who have suffered traumatic events such as these. Dr. Scowron's work is dedicated to not only studying these events and how they affect children later in life, but how to stop them in order to preserve families. Very important work, not just to those affected, but to all of us, because these children who become adults live among us, and they need to be healthy and productive. Betsy has won numerous awards, given national and international presentations, and written dozens of research publications. But the most burning question some of us have for her, as an Ohio State grad, now an Oregon professor, who did she root for, the Ducks or the Bucks? Well, we know how that one turned out. I would ask her, but she couldn't be here tonight. Her brother, Jim Scowron, is proudly representing his sister, Dr. Elizabeth Scowron, class of '84, for induction to the Carroll High School Distinguished Alumni Hall of Fame. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Jim Scowron.
I know everybody was so looking forward to seeing Elizabeth, and here I am. Oh, goodness gracious. Let me just say this. I am so heartbroken for Elizabeth to have planned this last year, and then what happened with the pandemic, to then wait again for this year to come, and scheduled to leave on Wednesday to fly into Columbus for a nice weekend. Unfortunately, started developing symptoms on Tuesday and had to stay home. And so here I am at the last minute to just try to stand in honor of her and just hopefully explain to all of you how much this really means for her to join this prestigious group of people. So first of all, thank you so much, Carroll High School. If I could just speak for myself for a second, I really didn't understand the privilege that I had 34 years ago to graduate from this school. But I know I speak for Elizabeth and my brother Tom that really you know, we're where we're at today in life because of a lot of the foundational things that we learned over the 4 years that we were at this school. So thank you very much for that. For Julie Weitz, Julie, thank you so much for how welcoming you made me feel, because when Elizabeth asked for me to stand in for her, I was a little bit worried. I didn't want to be a fifth wheel or a third wheel. And even though if I am, I really appreciate how welcoming you have been. Thank you so much for everything you do. We are so lucky to have you running the show for us, so thank you. For Claire Lamel, Claire is going to graduate from Carroll in 2022, and she was selected to be Elizabeth's student ambassador. And I feel so terrible for Claire because she was so looking forward to spending a couple of days with Elizabeth to talk about all of the world of psychology, because she has a desire to study that perhaps in college. And she stuck with me, you know, somebody in manufacturing and overhead material handling. And, you know, so I promised Julie, let's make sure that we get Elizabeth's contact information to Claire so they can have a couple of Zoom conversations and really talk about the world of psychology. I know Elizabeth would absolutely love to do that. I will say this about Claire. Her parents must be very proud at what a wonderful young lady she is. And cheers to the House of St. Mary's. So, to the entire awards committee and alumni association, thank you so much from our family for bestowing this honor on Elizabeth. It's really cool that we're actually very, very touched that you feel the same way that we feel about Elizabeth and how much she deserves this award. So thank you so much for the honor from me and my family. To Matt Sableski, Matt, I just want to say, let me take this quick opportunity on this stage to say that you know, you are absolutely building something special here at Carroll. And we are so fortunate that you are steering this ship. And I know yesterday when you talked to us, you said what a wonderful team that you have. But I will just tell you that attitude reflects leadership, Captain. So thank you very much for everything you do. To Mr. Hoffler, and to your dad, Mr. Sableski, let me just take this quick personal opportunity to tell you from my perspective, when I think about teachers that truly influence me as a person, there you are, top 5. Thank you so much for both what your dad did and what you did. To the other inductees, as well as the other ones from the prior classes that are here tonight, thank you so much for showing all of us that with a great attitude, the willingness to learn, a strong work ethic, with a passion to do what you love with all of your heart. Thank you so much for being a shining example that we can reach for the stars. For my mom and dad, can you stand here for just a second? So, I will just say, my sister and I, as well as my older brother, we know what you sacrificed to provide us with 12 years of Catholic education. We went without some things growing up, but you had just an unbelievable commitment to getting us a solid Catholic education. Elizabeth found her calling and does what she does, you know, to try to make the family unit stronger, because strong families really do make strong communities. But we had the unfortunate event of the Xenia tornado where we lost everything that we had. But one of the things that came out of that day was Elizabeth and myself and all of our family learned at a very, very young age that material things are not what matters in life. Our house was full of love and compassion, so thank you very much. And then finally, I promise I'm done. Finally, for those of you that wish to know what makes Elizabeth tick, I would just ask you to read maybe the last paragraph of her bio. She is all about making a difference in life. She is all about leaving things better than you found them. And she's all about drawing your circle bigger to let other people in. So thank you.
Well, you could say our next inductee is a chip off the old block. Urban Gillespie, class of '86. He went into the Air Force after graduating from Notre Dame with his degree in electrical engineering, and he spent 24 years in the Air Force, retiring in 2014 at the rank of colonel. But in those 24 years, he did a whole lot of stuff. Among them, worked in the Air Force Space Command, National Reconnaissance Office, worked for the Secretary of the Air Force, Missile Defense Agency, and U.S. Pacific Command. Urban was twice selected for command, leading a Space Operations Squadron and a Space Launch Division. In the latter, he was mission director for NASA's Laddie lunar aircraft that orbited the moon to study the structure and composition of the atmosphere. Along the way, he picked up, count them, 1, 2, 3, 4 master's degrees. Yeah, I know. He's no slouch either. And though retired from the Air Force these last 7 years, he's not retired. He's still putting his knowledge and experience to work as a space systems program manager at MIT's Lincoln Laboratory, where he develops novel space control solutions to ensure our country's continued use of space for civil and military purposes. You know, I haven't had a chance to ask Urban what role Carroll High School played in his career choice and path. I'm sure he'll tell us. But why do I say he's a chip off the old block? His dad, Bill Gillespie, spent his career in the Air Force and was one of the first certified launch officers for the Minuteman II intercontinental ballistic missile in the 1960s. Bill rose through the ranks to major, and among his assignments, directed operations plans for our nation's first defensive space weapons and the United States' premier anti-ballistic missile system. It's obvious Bill Gillespie was influential on his son Urban's life and career. It was Bill who nominated Urban for this honor tonight. Julie Weitz sent me a copy of a handwritten note from Bill. It's from 2011, and he was enclosing the program for Urban's promotion to colonel. He signed the note, "A proud dad, Bill Gillespie." He's not physically here tonight. He passed away in March. But there is no doubt he is here tonight in spirit, still a very proud dad. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you for induction to the Carroll High School Distinguished Alumni Hall of Fame, Colonel Urban Gillespie, class of '86.
I can't see right now. Apologize. All right, so it's never a good sign when you get up here and you're already off script. And if you know me like Mr. Hemmert knows me, you'd say it's under preparation. You might be right. I'm going to say that I changed my mind. So the first thing I want to say is there's a lot of acronyms and other things that were talked about my Air Force career, and that's just jargon. The reality is my job while I was there is to help protect the nation, and we did it mostly through just space and space-oriented space assets. But it's not the things. The spacecraft and everything else cost a lot of money, but they're nothing compared to the lives of the men and women we're entrusted with to lead. And that was my greatest privilege while I served, and I'm very proud of that. So that's what you should take away, none of the other jargon stuff. The second thing off script I want to say a little bit is to Julie again, thank you so much. I know you're getting all this praise and you deserve it. I will say that what you guys don't know is we were given assignments. We also had a year and a half to do all those assignments. And I knew Julie was Mr. Hemmert's daughter, and I knew that I wanted to impress Julie and have all my assignments done and turned in on time, and I failed. And that was not too different from how my assignments were with Mr. Hammer's class either. So, but I'm going to talk real quick tonight about a couple things. I started off with you, Julie. Thank you so much. Partly because I want to extend a certain amount of gratitude to the Carroll High School Alumni Association, and more specifically the Awards and Recognition Committee, because of all the hard work that you do. It is tremendous and it is important. The way that you work to recognize and honor all Carroll alumni, not just distinguished, but all Carroll alumni, is absolutely critical to strengthening the bond between Patriots past, present, and future. Acknowledging our shared heritage, keeping alive our most valued traditions, and documenting our origin story and our timeline through the years. These are hallmarks of any institution that desires to grow and serve its community. So thank you from the bottom of my heart very much. I also need to pay some special recognition to my parents. I've already lost where you are. There she is. My mom is here with us tonight, so I'd like to thank my mom. And I know my father is looking down on us tonight and just bursting with pride. To their credit, it is they who chose Carroll High School for myself and for my brother. They knew the value of a Catholic education, and I know they sacrificed much, just like everyone else and every other parent that sends their kid to Carroll, because they want them to get the best education possibly, not just academically, but spiritually. I also need to thank and recognize my beautiful wife, Francie, sitting next to my mom. Francie. We've been together now for more than 20 years, and I will tell you that she is almost solely responsible for any success I can claim. She is truly the better angels of my nature, and if you know me, you know what that means. She brings out the very best in me while simultaneously reminding me to be more tolerant, to be more forgiving, and be more thankful. And she makes me want to be a better version of myself every day. Thank you. I do want to say, for lifelong friends and fellow Patriots, Paul Stibick and Kurt, thank you guys for being here today. Even when the years and distance have separated us, I treasure the memories we made at Carroll, and I over the last 35 years, I treasure every memory we have together. You guys have been by my side, brothers in arms. It's been great. And I look forward to sharing more memories with you in the years to come. For me, as I know it is probably for everyone in this room, Carroll has always meant a lot more than just a building or another school or a waypoint on to other life adventures. It is people. It has always been about the people. The lifeblood of Carroll is the dedicated Christian community of teachers, coaches, moderators, mentors, students, friends, and role models that is unlike any other school or organization I've ever been a part of. And I've been a part of a few schools. Overeducated. It is, so just remember that's the lifeblood. It is interesting and surprising what experiences will stay with you, what resonates within you, what leaves a mark, and what leaves a lasting impression. It in turn becomes a part of you, and it influences your path, and it influences your impact on the world. So in no particular order, and because there's so many, I have to limit it. But I will be forever grateful to Mrs. Heim, Mr. Johnson, Mr. Steinmetz, my science teachers, for supporting and encouraging my lifelong interest with science and engineering. They fomented my curiosity and opened up opportunities and new doors for me that I never imagined. But it also inspired me to bring the wonder of science to others, such as my children, and such as some of the MIT students, and also to our scouts. And it is something, as I passionately believe about. I wish I had the patience to be a teacher, Mr. Hoffler. I don't. But I do enjoy sharing as much as I can to the limits of my patience. I do also want to thank Mr. Sableski, Sr. Mr. Sableski, Sr. taught the 9th grade me that Shakespeare can in fact be read and understood, and that his 16th century reflection of the world transcends time. And that in particular taught me that our answers don't always come from the most direct and traditional sources. Oftentimes, we find insight and inspiration by looking deeper, where it may be camouflaged as art or literature or music. And that's an important lesson. Miss Worms and Miss Downey, Mrs. Clark, taught me that there's beauty and strength in logic and critical thinking, whether it was developing a geometric proof or dissecting a sentence. Amazingly, time and time again, I found myself falling back on these very lessons every time we planned some kind of complex on-orbit operation or planned a launch, or any time we needed more money or more time or more people. It was always, that's what I always fell back on. And if the logic was there in those arguments, it was very difficult to defeat Team Gillespie, Downey, and Worms. So I owe tremendous thanks to them. From Madame Perfilio, my French teacher, she kept the French language and culture interesting, despite my complete inability to speak French without a distinctive Midwestern drawl. But she opened up an entire world to me, inspired international travel, as well as instilled in me the importance and respect of other people and cultures. Coach Spurl drilled home the importance of pride in your work, finishing strong even in the face of almost insurmountable obstacles, and we witnessed that last night. They did. They finished strong. They didn't hang their heads. It was great. I also think he would be surprised that I adapted his mantra, keep it simple, and I'm not going to try and impersonate Mr. Coach Spurl because he'll find me. But I adopted his mantra, keep it simple, to my program teams. So oftentimes, and we heard it earlier as well, if the solution you've arrived at has a lot of complex parts and a lot of moving and pieces, you need to start looking at the problem again. Have we identified the right problem? The most elegant and lasting solutions that I've found are not surprisingly also the simplest, but they come from having a clear understanding of the problem. For Mr. Hoffler, I have to recognize you always were the ideal for me for someone who had a sense of humor and who could relate to folks. And as I became the old man in the Air Force, and I had to lead a lot of younger folks who had never heard of a CD or a dial-up phone or TV antennas, I often would relate to the times in your class where you would get people talking. And I think that was one of the most important things you ever did, and you kept it with a sense of humor, and you made us learn regardless. And so thank you. From Coach Hemmert, I learned that the kind of person I want to be is an amalgamation of wit, sarcasm, and a touch of mystery and intrigue, who just happens to love baseball and teaching about as much as breathing. This complex human being taught me that we are all complex individuals, rarely predictable, but that the written word is possibly the best way to capture and express that complexity in a way that others can understand. Writing takes a lot of time and effort. I know because I never put in that much time or effort, but I'm getting better. But it can be a much more effective process than the spoken word, and it creates a more permanent impression because of the care and precision in which one must choose their words and convey sincere feeling, emotion, and meaning. It's a powerful tool that I'm still learning to master. And finally, I have to offer a special thanks to Mr. Sens and Mr. Wallachewicz, both, who demonstrated to me what real leadership is, especially when I didn't have it at the time. They showed me that it requires taking on obligation and responsibility beyond the self. It involves in no short measure an investment of yourself to others and to the organization and institution. They taught me that a true leader must have vision, patience, enthusiasm, compassion, integrity, discipline, and that it's not enough to maintain standards, but you have to have the courage to raise the standard and unleash the true potential of the individual and the organization as a whole. And finally, that one is the most important tasks of a leader, is to instill, plant, nurture, and develop new leaders. They taught me that because I'm one of them. I like to think I am, and so thank you very much. Finally, I have to say a word about role models. Upperclassmen that without their subtle and unknown influence, I can honestly say I would not be who I am today. They embodied the kind of person I wanted to be. People like Chris Sorrell, who has forgotten more about baseball strategy than I'll ever learn, and he was dedicated to sharing that knowledge to whoever would listen or whoever was trapped in the room with him at the time. He's infectious. He's infectious. Mike Sheets, who, as a happy-go-lucky college undergrad and part-time postman, volunteered to coach summer baseball just because he loved to coach. He loved the kids. Tony Ferraro, who was the kind of patriot I wanted to be, a tenacious competitor on the field, but the kindest and most gentle human being off the field. And finally, two other people I want to recognize are David Kammer, believe it or not, Jim Fleischer. Two individuals that in my mind exemplify the whole person concept, academically, athletically, socially, and spiritually. And it's no coincidence that I followed both their leads and ended up at Notre Dame. So thank you. I owe a tremendous amount of gratitude to our Father and Holy Mother for my many gifts I've been given, the opportunities I've had, and the many companions I've been lucky enough to share with this journey. Some of us are here this evening, some are with us here in spirit, and others are with us by God's side. The lifeblood of Carroll High School, and now you know what I mean by that, will course through me and sustain me for a lifetime, as it has these past 35 years. And it is my sincere hope and desire that I will pass on even a small fraction of the love, compassion, and learning that Carroll's provided me. God bless you all. God bless Carroll High School. And God bless all Patriots, wherever they may be tonight. Thank you.
Well, there's no shame in being the final inductee of the night, because that also means you are the youngest. Damn you. Michael Stika is a prime example of someone who took what he was really good at and combined it with something he really loved. He and Luke Notestein became fast friends freshman year, and they still are good friends a quarter century later. The kind of friend, Luke says, you could talk to about almost anything. They played a lot of golf together throughout high school, and Luke remembers that Michael was really smart and did so well in math. That led him to the University of Dayton and his degree in economics. Great, but what to do with that? Well, Michael always loved the arts, and Luke remembers Michael loved music. Back then, classic rock, AC/DC. But Luke says, yeah, Michael loved all kinds of music. So he took his math skills and his passion for the arts, and he co-founded the Zoot Theater Company in Dayton. But life had bigger plans for Michael. He went to work for the Grammy Museum, yeah, the one in Los Angeles. First as the controller and senior director of finance and administration, again, those math skills coming in very handy. Then he was executive director, and in June of 2019, he was appointed president of the Grammy Museum. He has raised millions to renovate and upgrade the museum, and when the pandemic hit early last year and the museum had to close its doors, Michael Stika led his team to create a free digital museum within 48 hours. Luke says it's absolutely incredible what Michael has done with the museum. Also, according to Luke, to Michael, one of his incredible moments was meeting Dolly Parton. She came in to see the exhibit about her, which Luke describes as almost a shrine to Dolly. And Michael said meeting her is one of the highlights of his life. He was impressed with her not only as an artist, because he likes country music too, but with her business savvy. Luke was also impressed with the time that his old golfing buddy Michael stopped in Asheville to visit Luke and then drove on to the Masters in Augusta. Luke, who now reports on sports as part of his job for a TV station in Raleigh, said, I hope Michael gets me tickets to the Masters someday, hint, hint. Ladies and gentlemen, from the class of 2000, I present to you for induction to the Carroll High School Distinguished Alumni Hall of Fame, Michael Stika.
Normally I have a teleprompter too, so this is awkward. Just bear with me, everyone. Congratulations on your 9 Emmys. We'll get you a Grammy at some point. Can you sing?
No, not very well.
Well, never mind. All right. I don't know where in the hell Luke got the idea that I was good at math, but I'll take it. First, congratulations to those of whom I'm honored to be inducted with this evening. And reading your bios and learning about your accomplishments, it's clear that Carroll is very lucky to count you amongst its alumni. So congratulations to all of you. I'm not sure how, or more importantly, who decided that I should be a part of the Alumni Association, or the Hall of Fame, especially with these 6 other distinguished individuals, but I would like to thank them for overlooking all of the demerits that I received for being unable to jump rope. I actually still tell people about that, and no one believes me. So I'm glad that you all understand what I'm saying. Looking back, it's hilarious and almost ridiculous that jumping rope was even a concern of mine in life. But it was. And it's stories and experiences like that I think creates and makes special the Carroll community. And it's a community that I'm proud to be a part of. Obviously, receiving a recognition like this from one's high school brings about a lot of reflection. My time at Carroll, like many of us here, promoted a lot of personal growth. It was the community and the values that Carroll fostered that enabled me to learn how to adapt and address my severe introversion. My freshman year actually paid witness to rushing through my chicken sandwich or Crispito so that I could stand in the hallway rather than be seen eating alone. Yet it was my senior year where I proudly partnered with my friends and with Mr. Rakel to create the Flag Patrol, which to my understanding, yes, thank you, which to my understanding, I believe 21 years later, is still leading the student section on and cheering the Patriots. It is. Although from what I heard tonight, not very successfully last night. Congratulations, Greg. Oddly enough, it was in history class with Mr. Rakel, where I learned to effectively communicate using storytelling. And I actually use that today. The fact that I still maintain headspace for the story about how Rasputin's manipulation of Tsar Nicholas II distracted him from understanding the Bolshevik Revolution that ultimately brought down the Romanov dynasty in 1917 is a testament to your teaching skills. And it's a testament to how I actually communicate with my staff, with artists, and with a lot of people in my life. And it really is a testament to the quality of teachers by whom Carroll students are fortunate to be taught. I was also lucky enough to be taught by Mr. Hoffler, although earlier he told me he didn't remember that. It's an honor to be inducted into this Hall of Fame class with you. I'm not sure if you remember, but clearly you don't, that you once said that it's the A students who will someday be working for the C students. You remember that? And that really resonated with me because I was barely a C student, so thank you. Just like many of us here, I could go on and on about the positive effect that Carroll had on me. It is a special place that I am glad to have spent 4 years of my life. And the teachers at Carroll really did have a large part in fostering the person I have become and the success that I've achieved. I'm grateful for the education that I received at Carroll. And it's why my partner Brian and I helped to fund Carroll's first endowment. We were both products of Catholic education. We both strongly believe in its mission, and we both strive to be living proof of the positive impact that Catholic education has on society. So it behooves all of us to continue to support that, to make sure that it is available and accessible for future generations. I want to thank my mother, who also went to Carroll, my Aunt Donna, and my Uncle Tom, who also went to Carroll. It was my mom who wanted us to have a Catholic education, and I greatly appreciate that. I have 16 years of Catholic education, and it really is why I have some success today. So finally, I would be remiss if I didn't mention the greatest product of my time in high school, and that is the resulting and lasting friendships that I deeply cherish. My friends today, my best friends today, are friends that I made more than 20 years ago in the halls in Linden Avenue. So thank you very much for this award and this recognition. It really is special knowing that I graduated from being a mediocre student to a distinguished alumnus of Carroll High School. So thank you.
Your fellow alumni, the administration, faculty, staff, and students at Carroll High School want it to be known that you are distinguished in our midst and shall evermore be remembered as members of this honored Hall of Fame, in which you are recognized and held up as examples of what it means to be Carroll High School alumni, true patriots for life, and examples of the ideals of church, family, country, community, and service. Be it so known, be you so honored. I read his notes, very impressive. Yeah, I'm gonna get out of the way. Please don't. I'm waiting too. How about a 2-armor? 2-armor. All right. All right, you guys have all been congratulated. I guess you can go sit down, right? Okay, thank you. All right.
Thank you. I'm here to offer a closing prayer and closing remarks. And my boss, Matt Sableski, is always imploring me to be brief, but he just left. But thank you, everyone, for making this evening possible. We want to especially thank our MC, Sheryl Mchenry, for being so very generous with her time and her love for Carroll, and really making this event a priority in her life and just a wonderful event for our community. So thank you, Cheryl, and thank you, Bob, for being here tonight. Bob, it's great to see you. Thank you, Mr. Shabali. I also want to take a moment to thank someone who makes so many things at Carroll go that keep the great things happening at Carroll in front of our lives and foremost in our communication. That's our Director of Communications, Mr. Michael Franz. He's behind the camera right now. You should have all received your Reflections magazine last month. That's all Mr. Franz. He's making tonight, and Julie. But Michael's really the visionary behind so many of the great things that we're seeing at Carroll from a visionary standpoint, and it's great to have him on our team. He's going to have this event tonight available on our YouTube channel sometime before the holidays. So thank you, Michael. Let's have a great round of applause for Michael. I'd be remiss if I was on the microphone the night that Tom Hoefler was inducted into the Carroll Hall of Fame and I didn't say thank you to Tom for everything that you did for not just one of the 10,000 students you taught, but so many others. Thank you on behalf of all the students, even the ones that got demerits for not being able to jump rope well, and I was one of them too. I have those demerits too. I believe you. But thank you, Tom, and great to see Mr. Rakel. So thank you, Mr. Hoefler. You know, Mr. Sableski 2.0 has a fondness for saying it's a great day to be a Patriot. What I find myself saying a lot as a director of advancement at this wonderful school that I was privileged to attend, that my parents were privileged to attend, is that it's a great time to be a Patriot. In the last 5 years alone, under Mr. Sableski's leadership, we've seen around $5.5 million worth of capital campus facility upgrades, in addition to the hundreds of thousands of dollars in scholarships that we make available to our students every year. That's only possible because of the generosity of people in this room and Patriots everywhere. And what I think about a lot, and it really brought it home for me yesterday getting to know Christine Rafalco and her mother and a lot of other folks that were here visiting campus for the first time in years, is that 60 years ago this fall, Carroll High School opened. And before that, it was just a promise. It was an idea. It was founded in two things, in faith and in love. Faith that it would get students what they needed in their lives and where they needed to go, wherever God intended them to be, and love from parents. I think about a lot that the people that made Carroll High School possible 7 decades ago, because it didn't just open 60 years ago, the planning began much earlier, are faces of people that I might only see in an old parish directory in black and white from the 1940s. But they knew that there would be people to come along, whether you were the daughter of a general or a kid from East Dayton from St. Joe's Orphanage. You would need Carroll High School in your life, and we would be there for those kids. And we're still there for those kids today, tomorrow, and every day. So I thank everyone in this room who has made Carroll a priority in their life. And we have great things happening and more great things to come. I will close in a prayer. As Mr. Sableski said, I want to draw special attention and ask you all to find it in your heart to pray for the families at Chaminade Julienne, the Myers family, the Zabo family, the Jacobson family, and the McLeod family. The CJ family are our friends and they are our partners in Catholic education excellence. So if we could all please bow our heads and pray for God's blessing. Strong and faithful God, thank you for this community. Thank you for the faculty, staff, and parents that make it possible. We ask that you bless everyone traveling tonight. We ask that you bless everyone in our community. And we ask that you, God bless, Carroll Patriots here and everywhere. Amen. Amen. Safe travels, folks. Thank you for a wonderful evening. Go Patriots.